In a world dominated by big monsters called Kaiju, Yokohama is protected by soldiers called the Japan Self-Defense Force. One day, a Kaiju comes out of the water and smashes a bridge. This triggered the city's Kaiju alert, which signaled for mass evacuation. Intel reveals the Kaiju's towering height of 60 meters and a power level of 3.5. And as they don't see anything nearby on their thermal cameras, they got permission to attack the Kaiju. Since the attack happened in Yokohama, the 3rd Division unit will be the ones to handle the attack. From the helicopter, the captain maneuvers towards strategic cover, while infantry units bravely confront the colossal threat, diverting its attention. The captain locates the perfect vantage point and unleashes an explosive projectile, detonating the Kaiju's chest, which one-shotted it in an instant. After that, a cleanup team comes to clean up the mess. Our main character Guy enjoys a burger before starting his work. He scouts the aftermath, which looks like your bedroom. Even though it's messy, he's happy because he'll get paid extra for working overtime. After the Kaiju is defeated, the skilled members of the 3rd Division, under the leadership of Captain Ashiro, are hailed for once again ending the threat without any casualties. The group has become Yokohama's heroes, celebrated as the true protectors against the Kaiju threat. In the midst of the parade, Kaka Hibino, our humble king, feels somewhat out of place. While everyone cheers and the media shines their spotlight on the heroes, Kaka knows his battle lies somewhere else. As the cleanup crew, Kaka's team not only has to clear the mess but also collect samples from the defeated Kaiju. Requesting a heat chainsaw to cut through the tough fat, their crew faces an unexpected accident and one of the Kaiju's organs explodes, injuring a worker. Kaka complained that each time the 3rd Division springs into action, they leave behind a dangerous mess, making their work more challenging. But that's not the crew's only problem. Despite the massive mess left by the 60-meter creature, they're ordered to finish cleaning by the weekend. And the worst part, Kafka was assigned to tackle the intestines, a task no one else wants due to its unpleasant nature. Legend has it that workers assigned their go without eating for a long time due to the nature of the job. Returning home exhausted, Kafka is haunted by the lingering stench of the Kaiju's remains. He tries to rid himself of it, but it persists, becoming a constant reminder of his work. Meanwhile, the TV highlights the heroic deeds of the 3rd Division and its leader, Mina Ashiro. Kaka recalls his promise to Mina to exterminate Kaiju together, but reality sets in as he realizes how time has passed and his ambitions have changed. After turning off the TV and seeing his reflection, Kaka questions how he ended up where he is. Briefly contemplating his life, he feels a surge of anxiety, but eventually settles with the idea that he's providing an important service for society, affording him a decent roof over his head, which for him is more than enough. The next day at work, Kafka can't shake off thoughts of the previous day's news. Upon arriving at the service headquarters, he meets Rino Ichikawa, a new intern from Ezumo Tech. Takuda, a colleague, jokes that Ichikawa dreams of joining the defense force, much like how Kafka once did. This teasing prompts Ichikawa to question why Kafka gave up on his dream. Although the topic makes him uncomfortable, he tried to hide his frustration, explaining that he did his best, but growing up taught him that not every dream comes true. However, Ichikawa refuses to accept defeat, vowing never to give up on his dream. During their shift, Mike's team tackles cleaning the bones while Yoshinura's team starts partitioning Kaiju legs. Kaka smiles when Ichikawa is sent to the intestines, thinking he's saved by another newcomer from the smell of sewage. But luck isn't on his side as he was sent there for the 2nd consecutive day. During break time, Ichikawa struggles to maintain his tough facade after the work in the intestines. Kaka tries to lighten the mood by joking about Ichikawa's nausea, but he himself fights the urge to throw up. Unable to eat, Kafka offers Ichikawa a liquid multivitamin to help him through the rough afternoon, along with nasal plugs to combat the lingering smell. After their break, Kafka and Ichikawa resume their grueling task of dealing with the Kaiju intestines. Sunset then came and they bid farewell to their colleagues as they wrapped up the day's work. Kaka felt some relief that they had finished the grossest part of the Kaiju. Taking a moment to rest, Ichikawa thanked Kafka for helping him through his first day. But before leaving, he mentioned that the Defense Force had raised the age limit for enrollment to 32, mentioning that he noticed how bitter Kafka was when he was talking about his dream. As Ichikawa walked back home, Kaiju suddenly emerged, attacking him. Reacting quickly, Kafka saved his colleague from the monster's jaws. When the Kaiju tried to attack again, Kafka intervened once more, saving Ichikawa's life a second time. Urging Ichikawa to run and get help, Kafka reminded him that he couldn't join the Defense Force if he ended up 6 feet below. Reluctantly, Ichikawa left, leaving Kafka to lure the creature away. Running as fast as he could, Kafka led the Kaiju until he found a steep opening where the creature couldn't follow. Escaping through the corridor, Kafka jumped out of the window on the other side. In that moment, memories flooded back of his childhood with Mina, where they mourned the destruction caused by the Kaiju. Mina criticized Kafka for only caring about his Pokemon game in such dire circumstances, as she was saddened by the passing of her cat Miko, who died because of the Kaiju's rampage. In a moment of shared determination, Kafka and Mina both declare their intention to join the defense force simultaneously, as they challenge each other on who will become the cooler officer first so they can fight together against the Kaiju threat. Snapped back to reality, Kafka soon finds himself alone facing the hideous creature. Grabbing an iron bar from the ground, Kafka tries to confront the Kaiju, frustrated for not being in the defense force. But the enemy's strength and speed overpowered him, throwing him into the air and leaving him at the mercy of the Kaiju's impending attack. As Kafka prepares to meet his maker, Ichikawa intervenes, delaying the monster's dinner by hitting it with a traffic sign. He announces that he's called for reinforcements, but refuses to leave his comrade to die alone. Despite Ichikawa's bravery, Kafka recalls his own failure in the test to join the anti-Kaiju force. Weak and unable to protect his partner, Kafka reflects on his inability to save even his friend's tabby cat. But amidst his despair, Mina Ashiro arrives, swiftly dispatching the Kaiju with her white tiger and rifle. With the threat neutralized, Mina orders her subordinates to begin the rescue operation while she personally checks for other Kaiju in the area. As Kafka watches, he accepts the reality of his limitations, acknowledging that there are others better suited to protect their comrades and defeat the Kaiju menace. Our humble king then gets hospitalized, where he reflects on Mina's swift takedown of the Kaiju. Suddenly, Ichikawa startles him, reminding Kafka that he owes his life to him, asserting that Kafka is just as cool. This word triggers memories of his bet with Mina about becoming the coolest officer. Ichikawa then urges Kafka once more to try joining the defense force. This time, Kafka acknowledges that he can't pretend he's moved on from that goal. He understands that giving up is a part of life, but lying to himself is worse. He resolves to give himself another chance. However, a small winged Kaiju suddenly emerges, claiming Kafka as its target and entering his mouth, causing a weird reaction throughout his body. Ichikawa, who heard the weird noises, was worried and opened the curtains to see what's happening. At this moment, Kafka is horrified to see his reflection transformed into a demonic form. Panic quickly sets in, when an old man passing by witnesses the scene and quickly reports another Kaiju sighting on his cell phone. On the other side, Captain Ashiro reflects on her past memories of the promises they had made together. In her mind, she calls Kafka a liar before suddenly receiving a report about a Kaiju in the Yokohama General Hospital. Returning to a childhood memory, Mina teased Kafka for his corny speech, saying that he'll protect her no matter what. Despite teasing him for his speech, she promised not to tell anyone, believing that when they're together, they have no reason to be afraid of anything. In the present, the captain of the 3rd Division of the Defense Force, Mina alerted her subordinates to a Kaiju sighting inside a hospital, emphasizing the need to defeat it before anyone got hurt. The state units also reported a small Kaiju nearby, warning citizens to seek shelter or stay indoors. Meanwhile, Kafka caused chaos in the hospital, frightening an old man. Ichikawa tried to lighten the mood by asking him to smile, but it backfired when the old man fainted on the spot. As Kafka reached out to check on him, he accidentally caused the entire structure to collapse. As the noise attracted other patients, they soon discovered the presence of the Kaiju. Ichikawa assumed the defense force was on its way, so Kafka ran to the window in an attempt to escape. However, despite their reluctance, they knew they had no choice but to jump. Meanwhile, defense units were en route to the South Yokohama General Hospital, where the Kaiju was located. However, they quickly got information that the Kaiju was heading towards an evacuated area nearby. As Kafka and Ichikawa ran for their lives, Ichikawa couldn't help but wonder how Kafka had transformed into a Kaiju. He questioned Kafka's identity, but the beautiful form Kafka had taken left himself uncertain of his own identity. Suddenly, the Kaiju's tongue snatched a bird without Kafka's consent and consumed it before reverting back to his initial form. However, he quickly found himself in urgent need of relieving himself. In a bizarre turn of events, Kafka ended up releasing his urine through his nipples, leaving Ichikawa emotionally destabilized and Kafka fearing no one would ever want to marry him. As Kafka questioned whether he could still join the defense force, Ichikawa thought it was crazy considering the current circumstances. He believed it would be easier for the military to eliminate Kafka rather than allow him anywhere near their bases. Kafka deeply regretted his situation, especially as he had promised to meet Mina and the defense force after years of failure. Concerned about the imminent arrival of state agents, Ichikawa suggested they jump into a prohibited area to throw them off. However, Kafka noticed a strange presence emerging from underground. At the same time, the defense force cars were instructed to proceed with their initial plan, while Mina's car went to investigate the new Kaiju sighting. Kafka suspected it was the same type of Kaiju that attacked them previously, and Ichikawa believed their chances of hiding improved with the presence of this other Kaiju, as it would divert the defense force's attention, so they followed the path through the forbidden area. Meanwhile, The emergence of the other Kaiju caused devastation elsewhere, trapping a mother under the rubble of her home. Her daughter cried desperately as the mother urged her to run away. Despite having no chance of saving her, the girl attempted to rescue her mother by any means possible. As the monster destroyed the house around them, her mother cried in despair for being unable to protect her. The Kaiju loomed over the little girl, its mouth open and ready to swallow her whole, when suddenly Kafka intervened, delivering a powerful punch that sent the creature flying hundreds of miles away. Even Kafka himself was astonished by the incredible strength displayed. Attempting to reassure the terrified child, Kafka tried to smile, which resulted in causing her more panic. Ichikawa soon arrived, and together they lifted the rubble. He discovered that the mother was unconscious but unharmed, comforting the child. However, the enemy Kaiju returned for revenge, prompting Kafka to urge Ichikawa to take the mother and child to safety while he faced the Kaiju alone. With his newfound strength, Kafka unleashed a devastating punch that one-shot the enemy Kaiju, showering the area in a rain of blood. Seeing this, Ichikawa warned Kafka never to point that fist at a human. Kafka then instructed him to take the mother to the hospital. However, his frightening appearance once again frightened the girl. Before leaving, Kafka reassured her that the defense force would soon arrive, comforting her with the promise of his imminent departure. As Kafka left, the girl thanked him for his help, but her voice reminded him of Mina. Suddenly, a vision flashes before his eyes of himself and Mina fighting together in defense force uniforms. It was a powerful reminder of their childhood promise to stand by each other's side, facing their fears together. As Ichikawa urged Kafka to leave, Kafka regained his human form. Soon after the arrival of the 3rd Division at the scene, Mina surveyed the wreckage, puzzled by what happened. Approaching the surviving child, she questioned her about the Kaiju, causing the girl to cry as she recalled the terrifying experience of nearly being swallowed. However, Mina reassured her, promising to exterminate all the monsters, which cheered up the girl. But then she asked Mina not to hurt the kind Kaiju that had saved her mother, leaving the captain puzzled. A few months later, the Kaiju No.Eight sketch adorned the local news, sparking debate among the monster sweeper cleanup crew about whether it was still alive. Ichikawa recognized the magnitude of the situation, especially since Kafka was the first Kaiju in history to evade the defense force, potentially causing panic in Yokohama. The cleaning manager handed Ichikawa a package that had arrived for him and Kafka, reflecting on the defense force exams which Kafka had failed in previous years. Their co-workers were delighted to learn that Kafka had passed this time, and Ichikawa decided to personally deliver the news to Kafka. Inside the cleaning headquarters, their friends remembered that this was Kafka's last chance to join the force, and they hoped for his success. Approaching Kafka, Ichikawa delivers the news that Kafka passed the first phase of the tests. However, he is shocked to see Kafka chilling in his monster mode. Ichikawa then kicks him, emphasizing the importance of caution with his Kaiju form being plastered across every news program. Reminding Kafka of their return to the hospital to clear their names, Ichikawa hands over the test result, though he doesn't seem overly happy. Kafka reveals that he's always been eliminated in the 2nd phase, acknowledging that it's not yet time to celebrate. Ichikawa questions how Kafka will navigate the test with his new body, but Kafka assures him he'll maintain his disguise. Despite officials being scattered everywhere during the 2nd phase, Kafka is determined to participate, given that this is his last chance after dedicating much of his life to it. Ichikawa remarks that they may become rivals in the test at some point. However, when Kafka struggles to open a bottle, Ichikawa's annoyance grows, causing him to doubt Kafka's ability to take the test. Nevertheless, Kafka firmly assures him that everything will be fine. As Ichikawa leaves, Kafka tries to process everything that's happened and returns to his human form to prepare for the exam. 10 days later, the 2nd phase of the Defense Force exam takes place at the Tokyo building. As Ichikawa arrives at the Tachikawa base, he's impressed by its size, having only visited the Kumageya base before. Kafka explains that they share the area with a Defense Force garrison and both bases collaborate when needed, especially for incidents on the west side of Tokyo. As candidates gather, Kafka feels intimidated by the younger and seemingly better prepared competitors. However, his nerves are interrupted when a girl approaches him, referring to him as an old man. It takes Kafka a moment to realize she's talking about him, and he defensively asserts that he's not old. The girl's request for him to move his car escalates into an argument, with Kafka insisting there are plenty of empty spaces. However, the girl claims that her lucky number for the day is 5, making her determined to park in space 55. Growing impatient with her superstitious insistence, Kafka watches in horror as the girl activates her uniform, gaining superhuman strength to lift his car with just one hand. Shocked, Kafka and Ichikawa can only watch as she effortlessly tosses the monster sweeper vent aside, leaving Kafka in a panic over the damaged company vehicle. When Ichikawa asks the girl who she is, she introduces herself as candidate number 2016, Kekoru Shinomiya, revealing her hobby in exterminating kaiju. Recognizing the surname Shinomiya, Ichikawa is taken aback. As the girl approaches Kafka once more, she bluntly tells him he smells like a kaiju. Seeing this, Ichikawa quickly clarifies that they're part of the kaiju disposal unit, but Kekoru continues to be shocked when Kafka effortlessly lifts his truck. Assuming he must have a hidden power suit, she introduces herself as candidate number 2016 and vows to outperform Kafka. Kafka, as examinee number 2032, dramatically introduces himself, but his cool demeanor is interrupted when he realizes his parking spot was taken by Kekoru's butler. Despite Kekoru's initial boredom with the exam, she now finds it interesting seeing Kafka as her rival. Ichikawa is furious with Kafka for using his powers, but Kafka argues that he only transformed the part Kekoru couldn't see. They then dismiss some guards' concerns about loud noises, but Ichikawa continues to warn Kafka that he'll send him home if he pulls any more stunts. The first phase of the test then starts. Determined not to give up this last chance to stand by Mina, Kafka struggles during the exam despite his training and daily physical work. He also finds it difficult to keep up, but he refuses to give up. The scene then flashes back to moments ago when Ichikawa explains the second stage of the exam, which consists of a fitness test and an aptitude test. While they can't change their aptitude, they must aim for the best grades in the fitness test. However, Kafka struggles significantly as he was always below average, but now it's even worse. Falling behind, Kafka wonders if people truly become this weak after turning 30, contemplating his life choices. Unfortunately, Kafka performed poorly, receiving a rank of 219 out of 225. Kekoru, on the other hand, brags about her success and reveals her 5th place rank and mocks Kafka. Kafka then reflects on his earlier dramatic declaration for Kekoru to remember his name, wishing she would forget about it. Ichikawa, however, is relieved that Kafka refrained from using his powers, but Kafka then explains that it wouldn't have been fair since everyone worked hard to be there, only saying it to sound cool. Deep down, he regrets not using his powers, believing he would have performed better. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Mina reviews this year's applicants. Her subordinate assumes she won't care given her focus on kaiju elimination, but he's surprised when she expresses a little bit of interest. Moving back to our humble king, where Ichikawa mentions a candidate named Izumo, who graduated at the top of his class and is highly promising and ranks 2nd in this test. They then mention the 3rd-ranked candidate Iharu, who is known as the valedictorian of a prestigious university. The top-ranked candidate is Kaguraji, the rising star of the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force. However, they're not the only exceptional candidates this year, because most of the candidates this year are from top universities, which explains why Kafka ranks so low. Ichikawa then elaborates that even among these strong candidates, there's one candidate that everyone is watching, Kekoru. Graduating from the California Neutralization College at just 16 and skipping many grades, she became the youngest candidate here. Kafka then admits to her that he had no idea she was so amazing, but his attempt to approach her quickly results in a beating from her bodyguards. Kekoru laughs at Kafka as she once again outshines him, but Kafka vows to surpass her too. Despite his statement, Kafka knows things aren't going well, but Ichikawa tells him that there's still hope. For the past 2 years, the second part of the test has been Kaiju corpse disposal. This tests the candidates' knowledge of kaiju and their ability to work in a group, aiming to show them there's more to the job than just eliminating kaiju. This is the main reason why Ichikawa chose to work part-time at the disposal unit. This restored hope for Kafka and Ichikawa as they decide to bet everything on the next part of the exam. At the second training area, Vice Captain Hoshina of the 3rd Division introduces himself. He explains that they'll have to find and neutralize kaiju in this test, which shocks the duo. Kafka's excitement turns to shock when a powerful kaiju attempts to attack Hoshina, only to be stopped by security measures. While Kafka is taken aback, the top candidates eagerly anticipate this part of the exam. Hoshina then emphasizes the danger of this part of the exam, explaining that they'll be wearing Izumo tech gear for protection. As Ichikawa tries on the combat suit, he's amazed by its capabilities. The suit analyzes his body measurements and adjusts its shape specifically for him, becoming one with his body. He even feels his muscles getting stronger. These are the Kaiju Defense Force combat suits made from organic material taken from Kaiju, massively multiplying the combat power of its wearer. On the other side of the facility, Hoshina begins measuring the unleashed combat power of those wearing the suits. Ichikawa's combat power is at 8%, Izumo's at 18%, Kaguraji's at 15%, and Haru's at 14%. Unleashed combat power indicates how much of the suit's power the examinee was able to draw out. He then mentions that even after extensive training, it's usually around 20%, and they're lucky if they get one applicant a year above 10%. These three candidates are all over 10%, leading Hoshina to wonder whether this year would be the golden year. Suddenly, everyone is shocked when Hoshina reveals that Kakoru's unleashed combat power is at a staggering 46%. Hoshina is in awe as she's already at the level of a platoon leader despite not yet joining the force, suggesting it might be a new record. Despite being disappointed in himself for only reaching 8%, Hoshina reassures Ichikawa that it's still pretty good for a first attempt. As long as the candidates don't have a 0, they will pass. Hoshina explains that he's never seen a 0 before, emphasizing that there's a first time for everything. Everyone is then shocked once again, but this time it's because Kaka's unleashed combat power is revealed to be 0%. Laughter erupts and even Hoshina wonders if there was some kind of error. Kaka asks for more time, claiming he's trying to squeeze out the combat power, but Hoshina bursts into uncontrollable laughter, explaining that it's not as simple as squeezing it out like using the bathroom. Despite finding Kafka amusing, Hoshina doubts he'll pass the exam. Kakoru, on the other hand, grows frustrated with his antics, wishing he would display the power he showed in the parking lot. Hoshina then enters the room and announces that it's time for the final part of the exam. It reveals that their targets will be 1 Hanju and 36 Yojo, placed throughout an urban training area. These Kaiju previously caused 16 casualties and were captured alive to serve as training aids. In this test, the candidates will fight them with anti-Kaiju weapons, while drones monitor their actions. Hoshina then explains that if they sense an examinee is in danger, they'll activate the shield in their suits to save them. However, this also means failing the exam. The test is incredibly dangerous, and Hoshina can't guarantee survival. With that, Hoshina begins the test, and the candidates rush forward eagerly, but they're stunned when Kakoru leaps ahead, effortlessly taking down 2 Yoju. Kafka then urges them to push forward to avoid falling behind, but Ichikawa points out that Kafka is the one holding them back. He then defends himself by highlighting the weight of the weapons, trying to sound cool by calling himself the 0, which didn't impress Ichikawa. Things started to look bad as Ichikawa noted their lack of offensive power compared to the others, but suddenly, Hoshina reveals that Mina has arrived to watch the exam. This made Kafka recall their challenge to become the cooler Defense Force officer, and he calms himself. He stops caring about being a 0, realizing this is his last chance. Kaka asks Ichikawa why they're being watched by drones when sensors could easily track the Kaiju examinees. And they quickly realize that aside from testing their abilities, the exam is also to see how well they can adapt to the situation. Acknowledging their lack of offensive capability, they understand they should focus on supporting the attackers. Doing the best they can, Kafka and Ichikawa find a nearby fight to assist. He recognizes the Yoju from one of his cleanups and remembers that stun grenades are effective against it due to its weak eyesight but strong hearing. They deafen it with the grenades and tells Izumo to target its stomach, successfully defeating it. The other candidates then thank Kafka for his support, but he is upset because they called him Kakoru's groupie. In the observation room, they take notice of Kafka and Ichikawa's actions. Kafka then reminds Ichikawa that they dissected more Kaiju bodies than they can count, feeling confident in their knowledge. He's relieved that he doesn't need his Kaiju power and is excited to make up for his past mistakes. However, their optimism is shattered when Kaiju appears out of nowhere, sending Kafka crashing into a building. Hoshina detects severe injuries, making him unable to continue the battle as the Yoju approaches. They prepare his suit's shield, but Kaka knows activating it means failing the exam. Despite his injuries, Kaka refuses to embarrass himself in front of Mina and tries to force himself up as the Yoju threatens to eat him. As Hoshina thinks about activating the remote shield, he laments the loss of Kaka's humor, but is suddenly interrupted as the Yoju is blown to bits. Turns out it was Kakoru, who declares that nobody is allowed to quit while she's on the battlefield and urges Kafka to stay down like a loser. As Kakoru zooms away, she swiftly takes out another Yojo, making the others wonder if she's wearing the same suit as them. In his heart, Kaka really wants to join the fight, but with a broken leg and multiple fractures, he's unable to even stand. Kaka refuses to entertain the idea of giving up, even with all his injuries and setbacks. This reminded him of the frustration of seeing his 0% combat power. Despite Hoshina's recommendation to drop out, Kaka becomes defiant, asserting his determination to chase his dreams regardless of his age or how foolish he may look. His declaration surprises everyone in the observation room as his combat power increases by 0.01%. Kafka proudly demonstrates that he can still stand despite his broken leg, shocking everyone present. Hoshina then decides to allow him to proceed with the warning that he will activate the shield if necessary. However, Kafka initially suggests that Ichikawa should continue without him as agreed, but Ichikawa chooses to support him instead, showcasing their mutual determination. Though embarrassed, Ichikawa carries Kafka, who relies on his knowledge to handle the approaching threats. As they move forward, Kafka instructs Ichikawa to follow Kikoru's lead, impressed by his friend's speed. However, Kikoru continues to dominate the battlefield, leaving the others disappointed that they cannot assist. Konami announces Kikoru's success in eliminating the last Yoju and is currently engaging the Hanju. With a grenade, Kikoru agitates the Hanju, positioning herself perfectly to defeat it. This sight leaves everyone stunned, including Hoshina, who marvels at Kikoru's immense power. The exam concludes swiftly, with no casualties, thanks to Kikoru's exceptional performance. Mina is impressed by Kikoru's capabilities, while Hoshina is shocked by her performance. As the exam ends, Hoshina reflects on the unexpected outcome, attributing it to Kikoru's remarkable skills. Known as director Shinomiya's daughter, Kikoru's exceptional performance doesn't surprise Hoshina, who believes she'll become a significant figure in the defense force. Meanwhile, Kikoru hopes to make her father proud with her flawless battlefield performance. However, their focus is shattered when a strange entity suddenly appears behind Kikoru, giving her a backshot. Shockingly, the fallen Kaiju begins to move again, causing further chaos. Kikoru, on the other hand, narrowly protects her heart by concentrating her shield. But she is alarmed when the mysterious creature starts to speak and displays intelligence. Identifying it as a Kaiju, she tries to attack, only to be swiftly and brutally struck back multiple times, causing her more pain. In the other room, Konami observes Kikoru's deteriorating condition, noting the live signals from the revived Kaiju and the heightened fortitude of the Hanju. The situation quickly escalates as Mina orders the activation of all remote shields for the examinees and the recall of some drones. Realizing the gravity of the threat, Hoshina acknowledges that only a few are capable of swiftly defeating such a powerful Hanju. But despite the evacuation order, Kikoru refuses to retreat, determined to stop the creature herself and prevent further casualties. She continues to use her suit to slow down the bleeding and continues the fight. As Kikoru struggles against the Hanju, her father's words echo in her mind, reminding her of the relentless pursuit of perfection she's gone through. Despite being knocked aside by the Hanju and barely able to move, Kikoru refuses to accept defeat. Flashbacks then reveal her past, where her father's expectations and focus on improvement weighed heavily on her. Determined to live up to his standards and to honor her late mother, Kikoru fights back even with just one arm functioning. However, all the damage starts to wear her down and she screams in pain. Meanwhile, a drone detects the Hanju's regenerated offensive organ, which they've already removed previously. As the Hanju prepares a devastating attack, Kikoru, accepting her fate, apologizes to her father for not meeting his expectations. However, in a surprising turn of events, Kaka appears beside Kikoru, offering words of encouragement and admiration for her efforts. Kikoru is stunned by his presence, and despite the proximity to the Hanju's attack, she remains unharmed. Kaka reassures Kikoru that she has done well in buying time for the evacuation and tells her that he will take care of the rest. A few minutes ago, as chaos ensues with the mass evacuation, Kageguri impresses Izumo by organizing the process using flares. Meanwhile, Kafka and Ichikawa are instructed to evacuate with strict orders not to return while Kikoru faces the revived Hanju. But despite this, Kaka disappears, which concerns Ichikawa. He quickly rushes back to the main site, realizing that Kaka might really use his powers this time. Back to the present, Kikoru is in shock by Kafka's transformation into a Kaiju, unable to even comprehend how he managed to do so. Kafka then reassures her of his true self and pleads with her not to reveal his secret to the defense force. However, their conversation is interrupted when the Hanju unleashes another laser attack, but Kafka effortlessly deflects it and promises to explain everything later. In the other room, Konami detects an ultra-powerful energy source near the Hanju, which knocks out their communications. Despite the staggering reading of the beast's fortitude at 9.8, Hoshina and Konami are skeptical, assuming the measurement system was damaged by the explosion, stating that if the reading was accurate, it would mark one of the most powerful Kaiju in history. With time running out, Kaka powers up, preparing to deliver a decisive blow. He apologizes to the Hanju before delivering a punch that obliterates the creature, while Kikoru watches in awe as the Hanju's body is scattered everywhere, shocked by Kaka's immense power. As the situation calms down, Kaka begs the defeated Hanju to stop moving, but when it stops moving completely, he assures Kikoru that she's safe now. However, he scolds her for putting herself in danger. Ichikawa soon arrives and scolds Kaka as well, though the argument ends when Kikoru passes out from exhaustion. Not long after, Mina and Hoshina arrive on the scene, puzzled by the extent of the damage caused to the Hanju. Meanwhile, Konami reports that Kikoru, Ichikawa, and Kaka have been safely evacuated. Mina orders an investigation of the area while she and Hoshina deal with the remaining Yoju. Hoshina, however, quickly realizes that the blast resembles one they encountered 3 months prior, prompting him to consider a potential connection. Later, Kaka finds himself back in the hospital, where Ichikawa explains that Kekoru is receiving top-notch treatment. Reflecting back on the exam, Kaka realizes the challenges of competing against exceptional individuals and the constant reminder that someone out there will always surpass you in the things you hold dear. He's grateful for deciding to retake the exam and appreciates Ichikawa's encouragement. However, Mina surprises them with a brief appearance, thanking them for assisting Kekoru and swiftly leaving. Kafka, on the other hand, refrains from calling out to her, deciding to wait for the right moment to talk to her, which is after he becomes an officer. In the medical room, Kekoru has a nightmare about failing to meet her father's expectations, but when she wakes up, she is met with Hoshino, who attributes the exam's success to her defeating the Hanju, albeit with some suspicion. However, Kekoru recalls Kafka's words and confidently claims responsibility for defeating the Hanju. The scene then shifts to a news report detailing the exam incident, noting injuries with 0 fatalities. In a bathroom stall, the mysterious and intelligent Kaiju listens in, disappointed by the lack of fatalities, which is quickly interrupted by a phone call. He then quickly transforms into a human from Kafka's disposal unit, concealing his transformation, while their friends hope that Kafka and Ichikawa are safe after the incident. Once they're back at work, Ichikawa's praise for Kafka at the hospital quickly turns to criticism as Kafka felt terrified of the results and blames Ichikawa for encouraging him to retake the exam. Their argument is interrupted by the arrival of 2 letters, and they agree to open them simultaneously after counting to 3. Kafka, however, is shocked by his exam results. At the Defense Force base, the successful exam candidates gather around, noticing the absence of Kekoru's groupie. The room then falls silent as Kekoru enters, revealing she received the top score. Izumo, on the other hand, initially expected to rank first, but now he sees himself competing for second place. Kaguraji, however, still wants to aim for the top spot despite Izumo's lack of ambition. Itaru also introduces himself to Ichikawa and wonders about Kaka's absence, assuming he didn't pass. Mina then arrives to commence the introduction ceremony, with Kekoru speaking on behalf of the new officers. She declares their dedication to the Defense Force, but is taken aback when Mina personally thanks her for saving everyone at the exam, feeling that Kafka, who had saved her life and worried about her, should be the one receiving such recognition. Even thinking about it enrages her as she feels humiliated and in need of answers. However, Kaka's late arrival to the ceremony surprises everyone, and it's revealed that he failed the exam, scoring the lowest in fitness and receiving a 0 in aptitude. But during a meeting to discuss who would pass, when Mina was about to mention Kafka, Hoshina suddenly interrupts and decides to take him into his platoon as a cadet. Despite Kaka's low scores, Hoshina acknowledges his battlefield performance, his ability to identify weaknesses, and of course his comedy. Mina then explains Kaka's enrollment as a cadet, followed by Kekoru and the top candidates expressing their approval. Mina then gives a speech about the increasing threat of Kaiju and her determination to lead from the front, acting as both shield and spear for the new officers. However, Kafka, caught up in her speech, loudly declares his determination to stand by her side soon, earning surprise reactions from the others. Despite being called out for speaking out of turn and owing Mina 100 push-ups, Kafka's declaration brings laughter from Hoshina, who appreciates Kafka's comedic presence in an otherwise gloomy environment. Konami is surprised by Kafka's antics, but Hoshina emphasizes the need for someone like him in their ranks. But among all the chaos that just happened, he noticed that Mina was smiling. However, Hoshina harbors another reason for keeping Kafka around, a reason he keeps to himself. This was caused by Hoshina's suspicions about Kafka when he noticed that Kafka's vitals stopped coming in at the same time as the detection of the 9.8 fortified Kaiju. Despite his concerns, Hoshina decides to keep Kafka close to him to investigate further. Meanwhile, everyone cheers as Kafka completes his 100 push-ups, and Kekoru asks to speak with him privately. Speculation arises about the nature of their conversation, with Kafka assuming it might be a romantic confession or a secretive meeting, which enraged Kekoru. After the ceremony, they met up at a local diner. Kekoru was surprised when Kafka revealed that he had ingested a kaiju, which enabled him to transform. This prompted Kafka to consider revealing the truth to the Defense Force in hopes of finding a cure. But Kekoru, however, warns him against it, fearing the consequences of Kafka's condition being discovered. She then shares rumors about the fate of powerful kaijus after defeat, which were turned into weapons, further emphasizing the dangers Kafka would face if his secret were exposed. Agreeing to keep Kafka's secret, Kekoru warns him that if he ever poses a threat to humanity, she will not hesitate to end his life, prompting Kafka to accept her conditions, trusting her to make the right decision if the need arises. Training then continues, and Ichikawa impresses everyone with his performance, completing the exercise in just over 2.5 minutes with an unleashed combat power of 18%. A Haruo who doesn't want to be beaten by Ichikawa finishes in just 2 minutes and 15 seconds with a combat power of 20%. However, the most astounding performance comes from Keikoru, who finishes the exercise in an astonishing 1 minute and 15 seconds, boasting an unleashed combat power of 55%. Her incredible performance leaves everyone stunned, with Kaguraji and Izumo feeling motivated to improve their own abilities in the face of Keikoru's dominance. As the tough guys stared at each other, the room got really quiet. But then Kafka, who looked really tired, finished the exercise super slow, taking 6 whole minutes. Surprisingly, he only got unleashed 1% of his combat score, which wasn't great, but he still showed off to Keikoru. Hoshina, however, told him that he'd probably get kicked out in 3 months if he didn't improve. Before finishing, Hoshina made them all run 10 laps and added 5 more due to their initial complaint. Secretly, he was happy as everyone seemed to have rivals and wanted to do better than each other. After the tough run, they took a bath together, where they talked about muscles and joked about Kaka's huge belly, causing him to challenge everyone to an arm wrestling match. But before they could do anything, Kaguraji suddenly showed up with big muscles that made them all feel small. Meanwhile, in the laundry room, the girls were surprised to see Captain Mina Ashiro there. They're all in awe as she looked really fit. When Mina noticed this, Keikoru told her that she admired her and wondered how she got those muscles. Suddenly, Mina invited Keikoru to stand next to her for her workout demonstration. Later, in the bathhouse, the guys talked about why they joined the defense force, starting with a Haru who said that he wanted to be a hero like Captain Mina Ashiro, who had saved him when he was in middle school. Turns out, all the guys shared the same dream of becoming heroes inspired by Captain Mina Ashiro. Kafka was amazed at how she inspired so many people, and Ichikawa called her their generation's superhero. When the guys asked Kafka why join the forces, they were shocked to learn that they were childhood friends who made a promise to each other. But when Kafka tried to sneak away, the guys stopped him and demanded to hear the rest of his story. After the girls' bath, Keikoru found that all the guys passed out and learned that they'd spent too much time talking in the bath due to them discussing Mina. After learning this, she called them stupid and left. In the following days, the class continued with more training exercises and then growing closer as a team. However, during a run, Kafka fell behind, but Ichikawa and the others helped him keep going. One night, Kafka stayed up to work harder, but was discovered by Hoshina, who warned him about the importance of sleep. He then hinted about Mina, which he had heard from someone, causing Kafka to reveal his promise to fight alongside Mina. Hoshina then teased him to not try to steal his spot as vice captain. But despite his words, Kafka remained determined to make his dream come true. Before leaving, he also warned Kafka to not get attached to anyone in this field, as people come and go unexpectedly during missions. He then gave him the keys and gave him a 2-hour limit. But suddenly an alarm sounded, signaling their first mission. Hoshina's earlier warning quickly became evident as Kafka prepared to face the challenges ahead. Konami gives Mina an update and tells her that the area around them is being evacuated. The status of the town is very chaotic, with lots of people waiting for evacuation buses. However, the defense force is teaming up with another group to build a command post nearby. They soon got a report about the Hanju, who popped up from underground, which has grown even bigger and brought along a bunch of Yoju. Mina, however, decides to handle the Hanju on her own, trying to find a sniping spot, and wishes luck to everyone as they head out for their first mission. Hoshina then announces it's time to hunt Kaiju, and Ichikawa still tries to grasp that it's their first mission. Keikoru, on the other hand, stares at Kafka in disbelief, still coming to terms with him being Kaiju No.Eight. She hopes that he won't let her down, but at the same time he's close to throwing up from nerves. Not long after, at the neutralization area, Kafka and the others in Hoshina's platoon get their first look at the giant monster. Hoshina then explains that Mina's unit will handle the Hanju if they need to deal with the Yoju it's spawning. As new recruits, they're placed at the back of the fight, while also being the last line of defense. With everyone focused on the mission, Hoshina prepares to begin. He reminds them that their training scores won't save lives on the battlefield and that it's time to show what they can do for real. Hearing this, all the guys get pumped up, eager to prove themselves, and Hoshina encourages them to enjoy the moment. As the civilian evacuation completes and Mina positions herself, Kafka communicates with Ichikawa. He knows he needs to prove himself during this mission, remembering Hoshina's doubts about him lasting even 3 months. Despite his nerves, Kafka feels an unexpected excitement with Ichikawa, reminding that this has been the job they've always wanted. When the first Yoju arrive in their area, everyone leaps into action heroically. However, Kafka was left alone, descending the building slowly. Meanwhile, Mina sets up at her sniper point, ready for action, while another group initiates the plan to draw the Hanju away, starting the battle. However, Kafka is surprised at his own calmness in the midst of it all. He starts to feel the benefits of his suit and confidently unleashes his combat power. Unfortunately, he gets wrecked by a Yoju, as his power is still just 1%. Kekoru then tells him that he's too far up front and should stay at the rear. Seeing this, some of the veterans are annoyed by the rookies, wishing they'd just hide and not get in the way, as they decided to be cautious and wait for the front lines to figure out the Yoju's weak spots. However, they're shocked when Kekoru starts taking out the monsters herself. Refusing to sit around and wait, she attacks anything that looks like it might be a weak spot. Kekoru's impressive display of power stuns the veterans, as it's unusual for rookies to show such strength. Kaka then tells her that she did a good job, making her blush, but she is even more annoyed when her suit announces an increase in her heart rate. Nearby, the rest of the group works together to take down a Yoju, but Eharu is shocked when he sees Ichikawa take down one by himself. Ichikawa, however, explains that he switched out the burst rounds in his rifle for freeze rounds to slow the Yoju down while fighting, better fit for his style. He is confident that if he masters this technique, he'll be even better at hunting Kaiju. However, this isn't enough for him, as he is determined to keep getting stronger so Kafka won't ever have to transform again. The other top members of the group demonstrate their skills as they eliminate several Yoju themselves. Seeing this, the other platoons can't believe how strong the new recruits are, even surprising the platoon leaders. In the midst of all this, Kaguraji and Izumo compete to see who can eliminate more Kaiju, and one of the platoon leaders activates her mommy mode, drooling over the handsome rookies. She recalls Hoshina informing her about the average unleashed combat power of the new recruits this year, which are higher than the previous years, with a few standouts at the top motivating others to do better. Not long after, reports of Yoju being eliminated keep rolling in, and Kafka is shocked to hear that even Ichikawa and Eharu are advancing forward. Feeling discouraged and fearing that he's holding everyone back, Kafka wonders if there's anything he can do. However, he remembers that the veterans wanted to wait until they found out the Yoju's weak points, causing him to examine a Yoju corpse, deciding to fight in his own way. Others are shocked when they see Kafka knee-deep in the corpse, dismantling it. But despite his 1% combat power, he felt that the suit made it easier for him to take apart the Kaiju body. Kafka even thought that these suits could be useful in the cleaning industry. He soon recognizes the Kaiju's structure, but notices the core isn't in its usual place for a fumble-type monster. Searching around, Kafka finds the core and informs Hoshina that the Yoju's core is at the base of the neck. He also tells Hoshina the best way to attack it for those with weaker attack power. But most importantly, Kafka discovers that these Yoju have reproductive organs, identifying the white bumpy things on their rear, mentioning that if these aren't destroyed, the corpses might spawn new Kaiju. Hoshina is amazed by Kafka's work and instructs Konami to spread the news. He commands Kafka once again, while Kafka is stunned to actually be helping the defense force. Kafka then rushes off to neutralize the bodies of the defeated Kaiju, vowing to do whatever it takes to stand by Mina's side. Suddenly, he stops as a large explosion occurs behind him, signaling the start of the main attack on the Hanju. Turns out, the Hanju has been lured to a designated area, and the other platoons use suppressing fire to keep it in place. Mina then breaks out her giant weapon and prepares to fire it, ensuring everyone is at a safe distance. Given the permission to fire, Mina thinks about her promise with Kafka and prepares to show him how far she has come. The immense power she unleashes destroys the ground beneath her feet, and her suit announces her unleashed combat power is an incredible 96%. Hoshina also watches, hoping Kafka is paying close attention to the power of the person he aims to stand beside. Mina then fires her weapon, and the insanely powerful attack one-shots the gigantic Hanju. After the Hanju's core is exposed, Mina loads another round into her weapon and fires again, destroying even more of the Hanju. Konami announces that its vitals have disappeared as the Hanju collapses. This amazed everyone, but they're all shocked when Mina loads a third round into her weapon. Mina proceeds to fire a third time, and Konami announces that the Hanju has stopped moving completely. They are more confused when Mina loads a fourth round into her weapon, showcasing her relentless determination and incredible power. Konami, however, points out that the Hanju is already down, but Mina still insists on firing again. With the order given, Mina shoots at the monster once more, while Kafka watches in total admiration. Hoshina soon arrives and questions whether Kafka is ready to give up on his goal. He tells him that standing by Mina's side means matching her incredible strength, which even Hoshina admits he can't do. He reveals that his combat power is not as strong as hers when it comes to long-range weapons, so he can't take down the giant ones like she can. However, it's a totally different case when it comes to smaller and mid-sized Kaiju. Suddenly, a Kaiju appears behind Hoshina, but in a swift movement, Hoshina slices the Yoju to pieces, continuing to declare himself better than Mina when it comes to monsters of this size. This amazes Kafka, who was unable to follow Hoshina's attack. Hoshina continues by explaining that his family has been a clan of Kaiju hunters for generations. He elaborates that the captain and vice captain are the force's most powerful members, which is why they are given special equipment tailored to their fighting styles. Mina then informs Hoshina that the Hanju is down, so Hoshina tells Kafka that the real challenge is about to begin. Confused, Kafka questions how the Hanju is already defeated. Hoshina, however, reminds him that the real problem lies in the countless Yoju still alive inside its corpse. And as the swarm of Yoju emerges, Hoshina assures everyone that once they eliminate the remaining creatures, they can head home. Hearing this, the veterans taunt the rookies, wanting to show that fighting is more than just about combat power. Despite Mami Nakanoshima suggesting that Kaguraji and Izumo leave it to the veterans, they are still eager to join the fight. Konami observes the new recruits and notices that they're growing tired with their combat power and endurance slowly reducing. Hoshina also acknowledges that it's a challenging mission, but overcoming it will propel them to the next level. He explains that most officers start their careers with combat power between 20 and 30%, but only a few surpass that and become captains. Out of all the new recruits, Kakoru is the only one who's reached that level, but Hoshina continues by mentioning that Ichikawa might also be capable of doing so. We then witness Ichikawa taking down another Yoju, leaving Iharu furious as he had dedicated years to training at a prestigious technical college, not wanting to lose to Ichikawa. Just then, they receive word of more Yoju spotted nearby, prompting them to head to the front lines. As they arrive, Ichikawa is surprised to see someone from the monster cleaning company. Wondering why a cleaner is present, he explains that their services won't be needed for now, but their words fall on deaf ears. The mysterious individual mumbles to himself, disappointed that the reproductive organs he implanted in the Yoju have been destroyed, and ponders how they were discovered. This causes him to speculate that someone within the force may have knowledge about Kaijus. With his disfigured face, the individual turns to them, while wondering if they knew anything about the incident. Nearby, the cleaning crew members try to catch sight of Kafka and Ichikawa, but they're too far away. All they can see is the massive corpse of the Kaiju, which caused multiple cleaning companies from nearby cities to be called to the scene. However, they soon notice that the new recruit is missing. Back on the ground, Ichikawa urges the cleaner to seek safety, but the individual unexpectedly launches an attack that pierces through Iharu's chest. It becomes evident that their enemy is a Kaiju, though Ichikawa is confused as he's only heard of Kafka as a humanoid Kaiju. Intent on not leaving empty-handed, the Kaiju aims to take a sample of a Defense Force officer. Ichikawa attempts to alert Hoshina about the humanoid Kaiju, but the monster reveals that he's devised a method to remain undetected within the area, rendering their communication devices useless. Beginning to attack, the Kaiju inflicts severe damage on Ichikawa, who's baffled by the monster's ability to breach his suit's defenses. But they soon remember when Kakoru had briefed the group about this monster's tactics, advising them to focus on his fingers to anticipate his attacks. Ichikawa's quick thinking enables him to dodge the monster's assaults, surprising both the Kaiju and Iharu. Despite Ichikawa's efforts to persuade him to seek help, Iharu refuses to be protected by others. However, Ichikawa rescues him from another attack, continuing to urge him to flee. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Iharu retreats as the monster draws near. Though terrified, Ichikawa resolves to protect those he cares about, aspiring to be the Defense Force officer he aspires to be. Ichikawa engages the monster, with his sole objective being to buy enough time for Iharu to escape. As Iharu flees, he's surprised by Ichikawa's transformation into a formidable fighter, unable to comprehend how he's suddenly so good at combat. Reflecting on their training, Iharu recalls being warned about hitting a growth block in combat power, typically occurring around 20 to 30%, with only a select few overcoming it. Frustrated by his own being stuck at 20%. Ever since he was saved by Mina, Iharu has only thought about becoming stronger, but he becomes frustrated since Ichikawa was able to surpass him easily. Meanwhile, the monster detects that Ichikawa possesses knowledge about him and launches an attack, but Iharu suddenly comes back despite his injuries. Puzzled by Iharu's return, Ichikawa questions his motives. However, Iharu realizes that his resentment isn't directed at Ichikawa, but at himself for remaining unchanged since his rescue, as he is still relying on others for his life. He then asserts that Ichikawa won't be rescuing him and resolves to fight alongside him. The monster, perplexed by their interaction, soon realizes their attempt to escape is futile within his domain. Forced to fight, Iharu strategizes to create openings for Ichikawa's attacks. Using a conductor round, Iharu surprises the monster, neutralizing its movements. But despite the monster's focus on targeting Iharu, he evades its attacks with his newfound determination, having learned from his previous encounter. Immobilized by Iharu's conductor round, the monster becomes vulnerable to Ichikawa's attack. Ichikawa then channels his maximum combat power and unleashes a devastating assault, hoping for strength surpassing even Kikoru and Hoshina. However, when the smoke clears, they are horrified to find a wall of corpses, from which the monster emerges unscathed, swiftly striking Ichikawa, piercing his body with multiple attacks. Elsewhere, Hoshina receives news of the communication loss with Ichikawa, sparking concern among his comrades. As Kafka and Kikoru regroup, they notice movement among the corpses, indicating the presence of the monster from the exam. Ichikawa collapses in agony, his body filled with pain, but he clings to life, determined to continue the fight. The monster, frustrated by Ichikawa's sturdiness, further tortures him. Despite the attacks, Ichikawa refuses to give up, while Eharu, witnessing his friend's suffering, acknowledges Ichikawa's incredible strength. Desperate for help, Eharu prays for divine intervention, willing to accept help from any source, even the devil. But as the monster prepares to deliver the final blow, Kaka suddenly appears, confronting the creature head-on with a powerful punch that sends its head flying. The monster, bewildered by Kaka's sudden appearance and strength, realizes its defeat as its head is knocked off. Rushing to Ichikawa's side, Kaka apologizes for being late, while Ichikawa grapples with his feelings of incompetence, blaming himself for Kaka's transformation. However, Eharu is stunned to witness another humanoid kaiju. Kafka maintains his positive demeanor, instructing Ichikawa to use his suit to heal his wounds, finding humor in his inability to do so himself. Despite Kaka's confidence, Ichikawa remains concerned, sensing a bad feeling. The monster, surprised by Kaka's interference, acknowledges his formidable strength and expresses a desire to claim Kaka's body for himself. In a sudden turn of events, the monster fires a shot at Kafka, shocking Ichikawa with its ability to harm Kafka in his kaiju form. As the monster prepares a more powerful attack, Ichikawa urges Kafka to flee, but Kafka's anger at seeing his friends hurt drives him to stand his ground. Witnessing Kafka's unleashed rage, everyone is astonished as he repels the monster's attacks with a powerful scream. Kafka then launches a barrage of strikes, causing the monster to resort to using a wall of corpses as a shield. However, Kafka's relentless assault breaks through the barrier, forcing the monster on the defensive. Witnessing Kafka's dominance, the monster realizes he cannot withstand another direct hit and attempts to retreat, only to discover there's no escape. Locking himself onto the ground, Kafka then identifies the monster's core located in its torso and prepares to strike. With a powerful blow, he launches the monster across the city, causing it to deteriorate rapidly as his core becomes exposed. Kafka confidently declares victory, but his triumph is interrupted by the arrival of Defense Force members who announce the discovery of another humanoid kaiju. On the other hand, Kikoru engages and defeats another kaiju, reflecting on Kafka's determination to find Ichikawa and Eharu despite losing contact with them. While Kikoru initially doubted Kafka's ability to locate them, Kafka explains that he was able to sense the presence of monsters and left her to handle things while he searched for his friends. As Kikoru overhears news of a humanoid kaiju matching Kaiju No.Eight's description, Hoshina dispatches a neutralization unit to Kafka's location. Using the moment to escape, the monster vows to be ready for their next encounter, declaring that he knows how Kaiju No.Eight works now. The monster then attempts to attack the Defense Force officers, but Kafka shields them, surprising the creature with his human-like behavior. Determined to meet again, the monster retreats for now. Kafka, refusing to be captured, leaps into the air to escape, relieved to have rescued his friends. However, Kafka's relief is short-lived as he is discovered by Hoshina. He announces to everyone that he has encountered Kaiju No.Eight and holds Kaiju No.Eight responsible for injuring his men. Ichikawa, overhearing this, wishes he could explain that Kaiju No.Eight is their ally, but is unable to do anything. Hoshina attacks Kafka relentlessly, pushing him back. Kafka then quickly acknowledges Hoshina's skill in fighting smaller kaiju. Pulsing with power, Hoshina then requests to remove his limiter, allowing his combat power to surge to 92%. With a determined stance, Hoshina declares his intent to neutralize Kaiju No.Eight. Kafka is torn about how to handle the situation, unwilling to use his powerful fist attack against Hoshina. His hesitation is short-lived as Hoshina begins his assault, forcing Kafka to realize he can't hold back if he wants to survive. He quickly realizes that Hoshina's speed is unmatched, surpassing even Kikoru's, even struggling to harden his body in time to defend himself. Hoshina's relentless attacks leave Kafka in awe, particularly when he has located Kaiju No.Eight's core. Kafka quickly regenerates but knows he can't withstand many more hits due to the high stamina cost. As Hoshina powers up a double attack, Kafka realizes it's a decoy, leading to a triple attack that plunges Hoshina's blade into him. However, Kafka manages to block the blade, knowing Hoshina was aiming for his core. Terrified, Hoshina barely escapes Kafka's retaliatory punch. However, in his disappointment, Hoshina reports Kaiju No.Eight's escape. Nearby, Kekoru wonders if she should continue believing in Kafka. Her worries are briefly alleviated when Kafka returns, though he collapses from exhaustion. Kekoru, however, blushes when Kafka apologizes for letting the Kaiju let her escape. Kafka then rushes to find Ichikawa, but Kekoru reminds him there's nothing more he can do for him at the moment. She explains that Ichikawa will be fine, thanks to the Defense Force's Kaiju regeneration technology. She also warns Kafka to worry about himself since everyone knows he encountered Hoshina, which could lead to his discovery. Elsewhere, Mina, having never seen Hoshina so upset, takes a picture to remember it. She's shocked to learn that Hoshina considers Kaiju No.Eight to be so powerful it would be classified as a Daikaiju, the first in 5 years. However, they remember that Kaiju No.Eight hasn't caused any casualties, noting that it refrains from attacking people indiscriminately, which is why Hoshina felt so strange fighting him. Hoshina reflects on the battle, realizing that Kaiju No.Eight targeted his weapon instead of him, which was puzzling. Additionally, Kaiju No.Eight's movements felt more human than Kaiju-like. Mina, however, instructs Hoshina to rest and emphasizes that regardless of the Kaiju's nature, their job is to eliminate it. The captains are then informed that the humanoid Kaiju from the exam was also found in a humanoid form, adding to their horror. Elsewhere, Kaiju No.9 limps through a street, devouring a passerby who confronts him. He listens to a radio broadcast reporting that he has been designated as a long-term neutralization target by the Defense Force and given the codename Kaiju No.9. But his focus remains on eliminating Kaiju No.Eight as he plans to stay hidden until he gets used to his new human form. At the hospital, Kafka is relieved to see Ichikawa awake. Ichikawa is equally glad to see Kafka, but Kafka insists that should have been his line. Ichikawa then thanks Kafka for saving him, but their other friends are horrified by his words. Ichikawa is confused until he notices Iharu nearby, who questions why Ichikawa is thanking Kafka when it was Kaiju No.Eight who saved them. Kekoru quickly covers up by explaining that Kafka discovered the reproductive organs on the Kaiju, which helped them. As expected, Iharu falls for the explanation and thanks Kafka for that as well. He then reflects on why Kaiju No.Eight saved him and admits that he found the Kaiju pretty cool. Noticing Kafka blushing, Iharu asks why and Kekoru teases Kafka, pointing out that he always has the same dumb look on his face, diffusing the situation with humor. Later, a celebration is held for Ichikawa and Iharu, who have just been released from the hospital. Kafka is stunned when the chefs arrive with a 6th-grade Japanese Wagyu beef, a lavish treat organized by Izumo. He soon finds out that Izumo's family, wealthier than Kekoru's, owns the company that manufactures the Defense Force suits. Hoshina makes a toast commending everyone for their excellent performance on their first mission and encourages them to enjoy the rare break they all have at the same time. The mood is good and Ichikawa notes that he has never seen everyone so happy. However, Hoshina hints that the real fun hasn't even begun yet. Soon, Iharu and Kekoru start bickering over who shows off too much without contributing to the team. Ichikawa attempts to calm them, but Izumo and Kaguraji start arguing as well. Kafka soon joins the chaos, expressing frustration over the suit's effectiveness since he couldn't defeat a single Kaiju alone. Arguments break out all around, but Hoshina observes that Ichikawa has noticed something crucial, which was everyone is discussing the mission, what they lacked, and how they can improve. This realization hits Ichikawa hard as it's not just him, but everyone also wants to get better. Amidst the chaos, Kafka demands respect as an elder, but Kaguraji states he only respects the strong. This leads to Kafka challenging him to an arm wrestling match. The arguments grow even more intense and Konami comments that this is practically a yearly tradition. Outside, Izumo reflects on how long it's been since he last saw the chef, mentioning Izumo's father and how Izumo hasn't seen him since a certain incident. When Izumo notices Kaguraji nearby, he worries that he might have overheard. However, Kaguraji just needs to go to the bathroom and Izumo realizes Kaguraji isn't the nosy type. Back at the party, Hoshina makes an important announcement. He reveals that Kafka saved many people with his knowledge during the mission and is being promoted to a full officer. Everyone is shocked but thrilled, welcoming him to the Defense Force with cheers. The team celebrates Kafka's promotion, affirming their belief that the old dude could do it. Kaguraji doesn't show it on his face, but he is glad to see everyone so happy. He declares that if he can prevent anyone from losing their lives, he will do it. The next day, Mina officially tells Kafka that he is now a full-fledged Defense Force officer. Kafka then declares that he will give his all in the fight, but is shocked when Mina says that he is still a long way from being able to fight by her side. Hearing this, he can't believe that she remembers their promise, and he tells her to just wait. However, he forgets to address her properly, so he owes her another 50 push-ups. Fortunately for Kafka, Mina needs to attend a meeting where Kaiju No.Eight and Kaiju No.9 will be discussed. She then reveals that Hoshina was the one who recommended Kafka for full officer status and hopes that Kafka will live up to his expectations. That night, Kafka stays up late studying but decides to call it a night to avoid being scolded by Hoshina again. He notices a light left on in the training room and is shocked to find Hoshina training so late. There, he witnesses Hoshina moving at incredible speed, and Kafka realizes that he is doing mental imagery training, specifically recreating his battle against Kaiju No.Eight. Kafka's shock quickly gets Hoshina's attention, and Hoshina explains that he's working out a strategy to slice Kaiju No.Eight in half with a single strike next time, which of course terrifies Kafka. Hoshina elaborates that he could have sliced Kaiju No.Eight's head off if he had used Skill 6 instead of Skill 5, which would have cut Kaiju No.Eight and his core into ribbons. This horrifies Kafka even more. He then declares that Kaiju No.Eight cannot be handled by a normal officer, and that Kaiju No.9 is just as strong, so he must be the one to take them both down. Amazed, Kafka realizes that Hoshina isn't just trying to keep civilians safe, but also his platoon officers. Admiring Hoshina, Kafka declares that he will do his best to help in the fight. Hoshina, however, tells him not to get too cocky, doubting that someone with 1% power can be of any help. Kafka then bids him good night, but is surprised when Hoshina says he can have 1% of his expectations. As they call it a night, a group of terrifying kaiju are seen in the sky under the command of a powerful-looking monster who instructs them to begin their descent. Thank you for watching the 9th episode's recap of this anime. A while later, Hoshina ponders Kaiju No.Eight, noting its human-like movements, and Kaiju No.9, who can speak and disguise itself as a human. He's deeply concerned, sensing something unusual is happening with the kaiju. Meanwhile, Kafka reflects on Hoshina's expectations and resolves not to disappoint him. As Kafka heads to bed, he is shocked to see fire raining down from the sky. Konami informs Hoshina that dozens of kaiju have infiltrated the base, attacking from the air. She mentions that each kaiju has a fortitude level over 6, and all of them are Hanju. On the ground, a powerful monster terrorizes the base with its attacks. With Muna away, Hoshina takes command, instructing all hands to prepare for combat. His orders are to lure as many kaiju as possible into the training area and ensure none of them leave the base. Kafka is horrified to see the base in flames and quickly realizes the wyvern-type kaiju are a serious threat. However, he notes that something is off because wyvern-type kaiju usually appear alone, not in groups. Hoshina then directs all rifle users to the center of the base to lure and shoot the kaiju. Soon, Kafka explains to Hoshina that only about a dozen wyvern-type kaiju are seen each year, and they always appear alone. This sudden group appearance indicates that something powerful has united them and orchestrated their attack, suggesting they have a formidable leader. However, this leader suddenly appears before Hoshina, claiming to have spotted its target. The leader, a Daikaiju class with a fortitude of 8.3, demands to know if Hoshina is the strongest human at the base. Shocked that it can talk, Hoshina admits he is the strongest in Mina's absence, making him the leader's prey. Konami then confirms the Daikaiju's fortitude, and Hoshina instructs his second-in-command to manage the other kaiju, while he focuses on the Daikaiju. As the kaiju flicks his finger, he narrowly dodges an attack, impressing the monster, which declares that Hoshina passes its test, while the kaiju unleashes another powerful attack. Suddenly, the Daikaiju declares that it's time to begin the annihilation, and its scream prompts all the other kaiju scream in unison. Hoshina quickly realizes that the kaiju are reacting to the Daikaiju's battle cry, confirming their coordinated attack on the base. He dodges yet another attack, noting that the monster's punches feel like meteor strikes. Deep down, Hoshina knows that a single hit could be fatal, so he continues to evade. Despite managing to land a hit on the Daikaiju, he discovers that its skin is even tougher than Kaiju No.Eight's. Elsewhere, Kafka's teammates struggle to fight the kaiju, unable to inflict any significant damage. He then instructs them to stop attacking the kaiju from the front and instead target their backs, explaining that the wyvern types have thinner skin and their cores near the back to keep their weight down. The others are impressed by Kafka's knowledge and adjust their formation accordingly. Izumo and Kaguraji team up to fight one of the wyvern kaiju, with Kaguraji acting as a decoy. Izumo unleashes his full combat power to fire an attack, but he must dodge quickly when another kaiju appears to ambush him. The terrifying realization sets in that the kaiju are working together and watching each other's backs. As the situation grows dire, Kokoro's voice cuts through the chaos, suggesting another way to fight. She appears out of nowhere, running at blazing speed, and attacks a kaiju. Showing off a new weapon, she declares her plan to use her unstoppable power to smash right through the kaiju's front armor. In a flashback, Kokoro stands in the base's underground weapon storage, stunned by the news that a custom weapon has been made especially for her. Typically, Only captains receive such treatment, but given the increasing levels of Kaiju and her status as the third most powerful officer on the base, an exception has been made. Mina declares that Kaikoru is now officially the third strongest weapon after the captain and vice captain, making it her responsibility to annihilate the Kaiju. Back in the present, Kaikoru wields her new axe with impressive skill, though she laments that such an ugly weapon doesn't suit her. Everyone is shocked by the damage she manages to inflict and declares that the Kaiju's life is now over. Dodging its attacks, Kaikoru reveals that her weapon was made from the organ of a Hanju neutralized 2 years ago. Hashina had explained to her that pulling the trigger would release shockwaves. She utilizes these shockwaves to accelerate forward and employs her first technique to crush the Kaiju. But when another Kaiju appears, she uses another shockwave technique to one-shot the Kaiju. Her teammates watch in amazement, agreeing that the weapon suits her perfectly. However, another Kaiju suddenly appears from the sky, but is suddenly hit by freeze rounds from Ichikawa. Impressed by his ability to fight such strong Kaiju, she allows Ichikawa the honor of helping her, but only if he can keep up, which he confidently asserts he can. On the other hand, Izumo and Kaguraji refuse to be outdone by Kaikoru and Ichikawa, so they decide to hit the enemy from behind when Kaikoru has them distracted. Meanwhile, Hoshina is relieved to hear that Kaikoru is doing a good job, but he has a significant problem with the Daikaiju. During the fight, the Daikaiju's insane speed and power push Hoshina back, and what's most terrifying is the Daikaiju's apparent enjoyment of the fight and emotion Kaiju are not supposed to have. Hoshina quickly retreats through Gate 3 and becomes upset when the beast destroys it. He is shocked when the beast suddenly disappears, only to reappear and taunt him. Impressed, the Daikaiju explains that most Kaiju can't fight him like Hoshina does, and it can't wait to eat Hoshina and become even stronger. The Daikaiju then sends Hoshina flying but acknowledges his strength when Hoshina manages to slice his arm off. Realizing the severity of the situation, Hoshina apologizes to Konami as he decides to skip procedures. Now that they're on the training grounds, he no longer has to worry about hurting the officers, so he can go all out. He then unleashes his 92% combat power and declares it's time to neutralize the Daikaiju. Elsewhere, a girl finds herself in dire trouble, but Kafka, unable to reach her in time, transforms his legs to rescue her. This shocks the girl as she assumes that Kafka has learned to use his suit. However, as the beast prepares to attack them, Kaikoru and Ichikawa arrive just in time to save them. Kaikoru instructs Kafka to get the injured to safety, while Ichikawa reminds Kafka not to take unnecessary risks, urging him to believe in his fellow officers since he's now a full-fledged officer. Kafka understands and is amazed as he watches Kaikoru and Ichikawa fight with remarkable teamwork. He marvels at their coordination and wonders when they develop such synergy. Meanwhile, Konami announces that other units have arrived to help, and Kafka couldn't be happier, knowing that the senior officers who are off-duty have finally joined the battle. The platoons start forming a plan, and hope begins to rise as they manage to push back the Kaiju even without Mina. Nearby, Hoshina tells the Daikaiju leader that they picked a fight with the wrong people and assures him that they will win. The two engage in combat again, and the Daikaiju realizes that Hoshina has been slicing through the tiny gaps in its exoskeleton. Disappointed, the beast believes the fight has lost its thrill now that it understands Hoshina's strategy. It then closes off the openings, but is shocked when Hoshina still manages to slice it to pieces. However, the Daikaiju realizes that Hoshina's tactic of aiming for the gaps was just a diversion. He tries to demolish the Daikaiju, but is shocked when the monster gets more excited, regenerating rapidly. The Daikaiju, delighted to fight someone who rivals its power, is once again surprised when Hoshina slices it up enough to expose its core. Hoshina, however, ends the fight using another sword technique, and everyone celebrates, assuming the fight is over. But Konami suddenly notices something strange, followed by Hoshina, who claims that it isn't over. Nearby, Kafka feels a great deal of pain and wonders why his detection ability is going off even though he hasn't transformed. He fears the worst, worrying about Hoshina, while Konami is equally terrified as the Daikaiju begins to transform into something much bigger. This brought him to the realization that the position of its core must have changed, preventing him from fully destroying it. The Daikaiju then releases ultra-high temperature steam, and Hoshina is relieved he brought it into the training ground. Konami announces in disbelief that the Daikaiju's fortitude is rising, reaching an astounding number. As the beast completes its transformation, Konami announces its new fortitude level is 9. Thank you for watching the 9th episode's recap of this anime. If you enjoyed this video and want more of it, go ahead and hit that like button down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let's grow this community into a huge one and help us reach the goal of hitting 5,000 subscribers.